for a live stream. It needs that connection, and of course there's latency there because we're not only have to go into Zoom server, we go to University of Miami server, then we go to Zoom server, and then we go to the cloud computing here. Helps everyone to feel about close. And we'll see.
For a live stream.
Yeah. Okay, so I know that that is working. Okay, fine. Copy that. I'll see what happens with Loom if I can get in. Otherwise, we can pass on that. Okay, so welcome, folks. Everybody, Malik, I saw before. I don't know where he is now, but hopefully everybody's online and we're ready to go. So what I want to do today is talk about artificial intelligence, the fact of artificial intelligence, mention the difference artificial intelligence, what are types of artificial intelligence, and then go start talking also about generative AI. What's the difference when people were talking about regular artificial intelligence that's been around for quite a long time versus this generative AI, knowing the differences of that. And hopefully we'll start maybe talking about enterprise resource planning and some analytics as well. So if there are any questions, either unmic yourselves as usual or put it in the chat. Daniel, you want to moderate the chat?
Sure.
And any volunteers that go along with Daniel in moderating the chat? Do I have any? Who is it?
Kylie.
Kylie, good, Kylie. So you can moderate the chat. I appreciate your class participation. So Kylie will be there. Let me know, unmic yourselves and let me know what is going on. So I think we have the major crew here. We'll take, I'll have Dylan look, he'll be, during this class, he'll be looking at your websites, and then basically, Dylan, you can even send them some feedback on it along with
Yeah, I can do that.
okay, and then that way we can get that done we can basically multitask along the way. Okay, so any other comments? Stay with me after class, and I'll be happy to look at your projects, answer any other personal questions as well. And let's share the screen and let's get started. So I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to look at my website here. We see that we're here already. And we see our good-looking crowd. Okay, so I have here, this is Jay. Let me go to your section here. If I can find it. Right. So I have, this is my audit. Here is H1. So I have here, let's go to the what's due section and we'll just emphasize what is due. And we know, I just wanted to review again, we have an exam on Wednesday, April 17th. So that is next week in person on Wednesday. We will be covering Tech 3. For open-ended questions, they will be similar open-ended questions with cloud computing. What is cloud computing? What are the benefits? We talk about cloud services, infrastructure as a service, where we talk about basically getting on demand for hardware, platform as a service, getting on demand if I need other operating systems or I can use another operating system. Infrastructure as a service, I can also request more memory, more RAM, more processing power, and software as a service. We know that basically even Blackboard is a software as a service. Most of our software that we're using today is software as a service via the internet, via browser. We get to it. Also, I asked you to look at this article that you need to know about generative AI, what are its uses, and also the differences between artificial intelligence versus that Gen AI. Gen AI is a portion of artificial intelligence as well. Today is Monday, April 8th, and what is due today is the quiz on enterprise resource planning. When we deal with enterprise resource planning, what's an enterprise, first of all? Kylie, what's an enterprise? You have a clue?
No, but I can look it up.
Okay, look it up. And who has a clue? Autumn, do you have a clue of what is an enterprise?
Is it like something that like a project that you like undertake or
Okay, an
something?
enterprise. If I say I work for an enterprise, what enterprise do you think that you know closely that you're part of an enterprise and I'm a part of the same enterprise? What do you think that would be, Autumn?
Like the university.
Exactly. You got it. So the university is an enterprise, and just think about it as a large business, as a large organization. And what is the key of a large enterprise? So if we say ERP, that stands for Enterprise Resource Planning, it's basically the university, if we think about it, has many resources. And some of the resources they have are what? Some of the resources they have are their staff, right? They have their faculty, they have their support staff, they have the C-suite, right? We got the president, we have a CEO. Did you know we had a CEO? That's been just in the past couple of years. Most universities don't even, as a non-profit organization, don't even have a CEO. We have a CEO, we have a provost, we have then financial officers, all of these, and guess what? And we have students, right? You're part of the enterprise. Basically, you have a number of different roles. Dylan here is basically, he has a couple of different roles. He could be an employee, right, Dylan? Where you're part of what? Workday, where if he was in Workday, he basically can go in and get his payroll, look at his payroll, and that is part of basically planning for the university. They have their suppliers, outside suppliers. What else do they have? They basically we have a number of teams. Do you think have you ever gone to any events, Autumn, here, like parties that they've had on campus? Yes, no?
Yeah. Yes.
What kind of parties have you gone to here on campus
Like,
that seem memorable to you?
I don't know, just like different like events that like the school will like sponsor.
Like what? Did they have
Um,
music?
yeah, like if there's like a like club or something having like an event to like show like what they do or like an organization,
Okay,
then they'll
so
have
they have
like
organizations. Those organizations have budgets, right? Are you in any organizations, Autumn?
Yeah.
What organizations are you in?
I'm in a sorority.
Oh, you're in a sorority. Do you get any funding from the university, your sorority?
Yeah, if we're like having an event, then we can like apply to get a grant for
Okay, you're going to
different.
apply to get a grant. Where does that, so that's resources. Are you using their facilities?
Yeah.
You're using their facilities, right? Does somebody
Hmm.
have to clean those facilities?
Yeah.
Does somebody have to supply electricity to those facilities?
Hmm.
right? So, we can think about it, the water, right? We can even think about their bathrooms, right? Somebody has to clean. You think somebody has to come in and do some cleaning on these facilities? That's
Yes.
basically their resource, and they have to plan for those. And they have to plan basically, they get monies from where? Where does the university get its revenue from? From student tuition is one. Where else do they get it? They get from donations or others. They get it from grants, research grants coming in. The university takes some overhead. All of that has to be planned. They basically, do you think they pay me that I can support my family? Autumn.
Yes.
As a full professor, right? They pay me,
Mhm.
and they pay me to go to, I have a budget then to go to conferences. I have a budget for equipment. I have a budget to evaluate a number of different prizes, purchases,
Mhm.
software, hardware. They have to keep track of that. Don't you think so? All of that is done by enterprise resource planning. So when we think about, I want you to think about, in the words you say, who cares? You care. Because if they don't use those resources efficiently, what can happen? What, number one is their tuition can go exorbitant because they are not using it efficiently, right? And then basically they also can have, for instance, in COVID, when there were no students for even a semester coming on campus, do you think that affected the university's resources on them?
Yeah.
Of course, we didn't get, if students aren't coming to campus, what happens then? Daniel, what happens if students don't come to campus? What is the university losing in that aspect?
Money.
How?
Well, they don't have as much income from the tuitions.
Right, they don't have as much income. And where do students do? Dylan, where are you staying right now? Where's your housing?
I'm in Lakeside.
You're in Lakeside. Do you think the university gets any revenues for you being in Lakeside?
Definitely.
Definitely. And then do you end up using the resources and some of the shops and so forth on campus?
Yeah.
Since you're on campus, you're using that. So do you think those even outside vendors that have basically businesses on campus, they have to pay what? The university. And if there's no students, those businesses are what? Are out of business if nobody's there. So you can see that it's really important how we have to plan and how we have to use our resources, and we have to keep track of it. And if I want to get outside grants, for instance, Autumn, for, let's say what's your major, Autumn?
Marketing and finance.
Marketing and finance. So we say, hey, there's not enough women in finance in high positions. Now they're more so maybe we can go out to the community and get some grants to support women in finance, or to support different internships or whatever we want to do. We want to use enterprise resource planning. Does that start making sense? So I want to make sense out of that, because this quiz was due to you in enterprise resource planning when they were talking about it. I also asked for today that, just like your group did, is you publish your website, right, and create this. And then when you upgrade, in this case, when you upgrade to the business, then you get a domain name without Wix in the URL. And if you look on due next Monday, on April 15th, is the last chapter we'll cover, which is, that you can think about it, is data analytics. So if you look under April 15th, on the code, here is, Dylan will give you your group, your coupon code. But what's important here is when you sign up, here, let me make this larger. When you sign up here, you'll sign up what is it called? It's called business, right? It's called business. They change their names all the time. You know, it's like marketing. It's basically you're part of marketing, right, Autumn? It's basically, hey, we're going to call it business elite, business, whatever. You want to sign up for the business account. And when you do that, what you want to make sure when you do that is you sign up for a yearly account. For a year, we get this as part of our my academic relations partnership with Wix, and my classes, and only my classes, we get a yearly subscription. So make sure you put year, you don't put monthly, you don't put 2 years. And after you select it, put in the promo code. And make sure your promo code, after you fill in, only one person in your group needs to fill in your card. You will not get charged. You hear that? If you see, Autumn, right here, a total that is more than 0, greater than 0, you don't fill it in. You need to enter your promo code and make sure it was 0. And Daniel, you were trying to do and you had some issues. What was it? Why did it work the second or third time?
They already added a promo code, like they have a discount running. You have to remove that promo code and then sign up with that.
Okay. Everybody hear that? They try to do promo codes all the time. So sometimes they give like 50% off. And then if you don't, so where'd you eliminate it? Right here?
Yeah, where it says on your screen, enter promo code, there's like an X button next to it, and then you can get 100%.
Okay. Make sure you do that. You do not want 50% off. You understand? You want 100% off.
Someone had a question in chat about
Yeah, about
study
what?
guide. Study guide.
Okay, great. All right, perfect. On Wednesday, this Wednesday, let me just go back. This Wednesday, I'll start a review for the exam and give you the study guide. Okay, so Daniel, you can let everyone know, and I appreciate you asking me now, does that answer the question? I'll give a study guide on the exam, which is on a week from Wednesday. So this way, everybody will have the week. They'll have also the weekend to study. And then on Monday, if you have any questions about the exam, you can ask me before the Wednesday. Does that answer the question, Daniel, you think?
Yeah.
Perfect. And that's why we think about it as working as a group. So we have April 8th is the ERP. April 15th then is chapter 12. And I've made that already available to you. So chapter 12, is that correct, Daniel? That chapter 12 is already open to you as students, right?
Let me make sure.
And make sure that Wiley Plus is
Actually, yeah,
also,
you did that last week.
I know, but make
Yeah,
sure.
it's there.
Sometimes I do it and by accident, somehow I click twice or something and it doesn't appear,
It's
right?
definitely there. I've already done it.
Perfect. I thought that it was too. Okay, but many times I did it, and I think for one of the sections, for instance, I didn't change the date. Okay? Questions on that? So if I think about it, in chapter 14, if I think about it, you can then download your slides for chapter 14. And if I think about chapter 14, it starts talking about artificial intelligence. And what you need to know in artificial intelligence itself is the idea several years ago in traditional computing, and even today, what the computer was good at was computations. Remember, we talked about the CPU and RAM. And you remember we talked about something called, Kylie, ALU, the arithmetic logic unit. You remember that when we were talking in the very beginning on the chapters, it was called arithmetic. Let me just see here. Arithmetic ALU. Arithmetic logic unit. So basically part of the CPU has what they call an ALU. What does that mean? That it can do arithmetic, right? I can do any type of computation. And I can have logic. And what is logic? Logic, I can say something is greater than, less than, or equal to. And but aside then, Dylan, after checking the groups in this section, if you could check also the other groups as well.
Yeah, I can.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Greater than, less than, or equal to. That's traditional. And traditional computing, let's think about it. If we're going to be thinking about this, Ike, if I can, you know Excel, right? Ike, in some format? Yes, no?
A decent amount, yeah.
Okay. Have you taken one? What is it? 150 or something? Have you taken that? BTE 150?
I'm taking it right now.
Okay, you went through Excel, right?
Yep.
Good. So in terms of Excel, you know that if I put in a formula, if I enter a formula in Excel, and I enter the exact same formula and the exact same data, will I get the exact same results every time? That's the question. True or false? If I enter the same formula, Ike, and I enter the same data, will I get the same answer?
You should,
Right.
right? Yeah.
Right. That's traditional computing. Right? Same formulas with same data. This is not a trick question, Ike, right? Right? Same formula, same data. Because you think, it's probably going to trick me here. I got to look it up. Everybody's so nervous. We got to look it up. And sometimes we got to guess what? We need to use our natural intelligence. And sometimes we forget. But also, I always say, with my intelligence, I always could use more. So I like artificial intelligence if it can make me smarter. So anyways, same formula, same data, right? We should get same results. Does it tell me that I got the wrong formula? Ike, you're on a roll. Does it
What did you
usually
say
tell
again?
me that I have the wrong formula? You know what, Dr. Rush? You have the wrong formula.
It should tell you if you put it in wrong, right?
Well, the syntax it will tell me, but maybe the formula itself is incorrect for the data that I'm using. For instance, it may be I need, when we're thinking about stock prices, right? And if I use a linear function, Ike, for stocks, linear means what? Does it mean a straight line?
Yeah.
Linear function means a straight line, right? Now, do stocks go up or go down in a linear fashion?
Not really.
No, it
At
doesn't,
times
right?
they can,
It
but
basically is almost curvilinear. So if we're putting in a linear function, right? You remember we were even doing those crossovers and things like that. Maybe even our strategy was incorrect based on that symbol, based on historical data. But it's not going to say, hey, Dr. Rush, I think you should use curvilinear instead of there. But if I consulted with a statistician or a data analyst, right, Dylan? If I consulted with somebody, they say, hey, you're violating the assumptions of what this data looks like. You may get an answer, but it's not the best answer. So what artificial intelligence traditionally has sensed is, let's not only just do the arithmetic functions of greater than and less than, let's create programs that think more like a human. Because do we want to basically, if you gave, basically, I don't know if you were taught this, is that you can make the same mistake if you keep on with the same data, the same facts, you make the same mistake over and over and over again. What could you do is basically somebody says you should learn from what? Your past mistakes and then correct them. Right? Weren't you taught that all the time, Ike?
All the time.
All the time. That, of course, you're going to make mistakes. How do you get better? Right? And if it's in sports or it's in any type of learning, how do you get better? Is that you review what you've gotten and you try different ways to improve. Everybody got that idea? Kylie, you got that idea of improvement? And traditionally, what you were thinking about in Excel is traditionally, whatever you put in, it tries to get, hopefully, the correct answer, the correct results based on what you inputted. But if you input incorrectly or not the best, it will not improve. It will not learn. Everybody with me? So in essence, when I think about artificial intelligence, what it came about, a number of computations and computer scientists came out with a number of years ago, is say, let's try to make computation more not only efficient, but better by trying to emulate. And you know the word emulate? Emulate is try to act like more like a human. It's not going to be a human, but try to figure out what are our human beings do, is that our human beings, what we like is that we try to modify our behavior to basically to improve, not do the same thing if it's not working for us, banging our head a number of times. Now, it's not easy, right? Because even, you can think about it in relationship, right? That you end up saying, hey, this relationship didn't work and I'll pick someone else, and they have the same, and maybe I'm picking those same qualities that are not compatible with myself. You can think about it even in basically relationship, but you can think about facts. So what we're thinking about, look at this word here, Ike, is the idea of deep learning, is that we need basically to train the machine. We can do it by what we call supervised learning. Basically, I as a human will supervise all the training along the path to make sure that that I have articulated well the problem and see if it is learning, and where it has problems in learning or in results, I will come back and have it improve. You have a group of people, that's what it means, supervised. And then we'll talk about semi-supervised, and that sounds like it's not going to be all the time. Unsupervised, how I'm going to give it reinforcement when it does well, just like how you give reinforcements to your dog, right? Have you ever had an animal like?
Yeah, I've got a few.
Right. What do? Reinforce, right? They're learning, right? Of whatever it is. And it's just like human beings, we reinforce, right? When I tell you, Ike, right, I can give you negative reinforcement or positive reinforcement. I try to give, right, positive reinforcement and said, that's a great answer, Ike. You're taking participation. When Kylie basically, I gave her positive reinforcement and said, thank you for participating and volunteering, right? Kind of reinforcing. So maybe others will see it. And then there's something that deep learning that it goes in another level. So when you think about, have you heard about then autonomous vehicles? Basically that a car can drive on its own. Basically that requires deep learning, that it basically that software and that vision has to distinguish between if there's some person going across the street. Hopefully I can recognize, right? When someone is dashing in front of me, I recognize that. It's not so simple to recognize that there's that a person is going in. And that's when we're dealing with deep learning. And then we're going to describe the structure of what we call neural networks. In our brain, basically, we have a number of neurons, billions of neurons that basically connect to one another. When they are connecting to one another, those billions of neurons, that's when we're trying to mimic neural networks. And basically, when we have neural networks, basically what we're going to do is when we're having mistakes is we're going to adjust their basically what we call their beta. We're going to adjust for each of those variables the importance of it. So Whitney, for instance, we can use a neural network. For instance, Whitney, what is your major? Remind me again.
Entrepreneurship.
Entrepreneurship. So in terms of entrepreneur, if you're going to start a business and you want to deal with then those neural networks, and you're going to get a loan from let's say a bank, basically they'll ask you, for instance, how long have you been in business? Do you own your home? Do you have collateral? And each of those questions that they'll be asking has a certain weight to it. So in neural networks, we're going to reduce those networks. And then you can see here, computer vision, natural language processing. If I look at natural language processing in Zoom right now, I can use natural language processing, right? From my voice, it's going to take voice to what? Text. This, a lot of times you can think about it, the initials of that, or the acronym for natural language processing is NLP. And then you'll see then it'll provide then those case examples of artificial applications. You can have it in accounting, you can have it in entrepreneurship, operations. This even looks like all our majors. And understand which neural net transforms the data from the input mode to the node. So this was those applications of artificial theories that basically want to perform tasks that normally require human intelligence. And there was a computer scientist called Turing. And Turing basically, Professor Turing basically said, I want to make AI or artificial intelligence. A good test is if we ask a person, can they tell does this results come from a person or from a machine? If it passed, the person would not be able to differentiate. That's also why people are scared of AI, right? In Helena, when you think about it, people are cautious about AI because it's going to be almost those deep fakes that we're not going to be able to tell that disinformation, what is real and what isn't. So it's versus this. So when you look at this, in this case, let me just do from the current slide. If we look at this of artificial intelligence, basically, this is the column. This comes from your book as well of natural intelligence. This is the combination from artificial intelligence. And the idea is if I have a number, in this case, Helena, what is your major?
Finance.
finance. So if you became the CFO, the chief financial officer, you had a number of people working underneath you, and you basically were promoted to the chief financial officer. The chief financial officer before you had a lot of knowledge, but guess what? Why is it perishable? Because that person left and you don't have access to that person's knowledge. In artificial intelligence, basically what they say is we're capturing it so we can use it again and again. And then the duplication, that it's easier and faster and expensive. You can look at that. It can be, people also don't want to share their knowledge. Why should I share my knowledge? When I was trying to do artificial intelligence and all of these bots before, I asked my colleagues even to record themselves before we had the COVID. And my colleagues were saying they didn't want to be recorded. Why? Because they said, hey, then they won't need me anymore. And I was saying, maybe they won't, but sometimes maybe they will. That's still the difference. But I think my contention is that everyone is going to be having an artificial intelligence assistant. And if you don't, then they probably won't need you anymore. But anyways, these are the things that this is a good table to look at. If it's difficult and expensive, creativity here, creativity, some of it can be very high, low and uninspired. They're trying to be more creative with AI, use of sensory, recognize patterns, so you can go down. So you can see here that led to the advances is the idea that now I have the advances in chip technology. That's why NVIDIA has gone up so much, is because of that chip technology, those graphic processing unit, big data, the internet, and improved algorithms, that the algorithms get better. Now, there's a difference between expert systems, machine learning, and deep learning. In expert systems, and put this in your notes, it tries to gather information from an expert and perform rules. So the expert really doesn't need expert systems. It's those people that are not experts can use the experts' opinions and way of thinking to perform better. This was done, and one of the problems here was, how do you get the expert system? How do you get the expert to participate? How do you get the expert's knowledge in the computer that is timely and its cost problems? So the difficulties of expert systems is transferring that expertise from humans. One is humans say, hey, why should I give you my expertise? Then you won't need me, or pay me for my expertise. Why should I give it to you for free? And many times I have expertise, but I don't even know how I can explain that entire reasoning processing that I do. How do I automate that process? May not be possible. And machine learning is areas in which we have the machine learn by looking at patterns. Machine learning really works well with even healthcare, with radiology, that it's looking for patterns of possible pre-cancer, patterns of cancer that the human eye doesn't even see. So that life science industry retail has used machine learning as well. And deep learning, it's done well in drug discovery, in language processing, right? Voice to text, it's done a great job. Customer relationship management in deep learning has done well. And basically, you have neural networks that basically have weights of different what I call independent variables to give it certain weights, and we change the weights. So for instance, it may be how many years you were in a place, maybe basically living may have more or less weight. Artificial intelligence, you can see here, is robotics, speech recognition, having intelligent agents. And then they have, basically, you can have it in different areas, like we talked about, accounting, finance, marketing, human resources as well. So now what you can do is you have something called, the idea is, what is the difference then between generative AI and regular artificial intelligence? So, Sai, what do you think? You understand what the question was? What my question was, Sai? My question is, what is the difference from traditional artificial intelligence to what they're now calling generative AI? Or is there? Or is it just all smoke and mirrors?
It's like learning by itself and improving by itself instead of having someone else do
Well,
it.
so what's the difference between that and machine learning? Is the machine learning unsupervised? So we can see these are kind of things that we need to do. So for instance, right now, I'm going to go to a software program called Call, and you can even look at it later on. You can get it as an app, Annie.ai. You see this sign? Have you heard of her? This program? So that's good. So what Call Annie does is it's a bot that does conversational bots. Those of you doing in mental health may want to review some of these conversational bots, and they're based on generative AI, large learning models in the background. And notice here, there you can do video calls, you can do audio only. I like to do video calls with her because you kind of see the animation, and then they're purporting to do this with calling Available's AI friend. And sometimes and it's interesting for your project, sometimes what I'll do is I'll have Call Annie, and then I'll call up other generative AIs, put them in speaker mode as well, and have them talk to each other. And then I'll look for consensus, because what's unique about generative AI is it produces new content. Have you ever heard, Sai, of hallucinations with generative AI?
I have not.
So there's something called hallucinations. Is basically the generative AI makes up stuff. And they say it sometimes in an authoritative way that it sounds real. So when I put in a formula in Excel with the same data, I can expect to get the correct results. You understand, Si? When I put in information about, and I did that with Gemini, I put my name in, who is, Dr. Sarah Rushining, and it came up with a beautiful resume. Do you know that? And it was completely false. It said that I graduated from University of Wisconsin, where I graduated from the University of Texas at Austin. It gave my major completely wrong. But it looked formal, And so you almost have to ask it questions where in the beginning the answers to, so making sure. So that's what they call hallucination. So in this case, I'm going to make a video call. And I'm going to allow. Can you hear me, Annie?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear, Sarah. What's on your mind today?
Well, that's great. I'm here with my great class, my information technology class, and they are going to do a project to be AI Gen consultants. What do you think about that?
That sounds like a fascinating project, Sarah. Becoming AI general consultants sounds like a cool and innovative idea. I'm sure your class will come up with some brilliant concepts. How can I help you with this project?
Can you give me any suggestions what the students should do?
Absolutely. Here are a few suggestions for your students as they work on their AI General Consultant project. 1. Encourage them to research current trends and advancements in AI technology to stay up to date. 2. Have them consider the ethical implications of AI and how it can be used responsibly. 3. Encourage creativity in designing AI solutions that can address real-world problems or enhance daily life. 4. Emphasize the importance of user experience and feedback in developing user-friendly AI solutions. 5. Encourage collaboration and teamwork to leverage each student's strengths and skills. I hope these suggestions help spark some ideas for your students.
That's great. Annie, what is the difference between generative AI and machine learning?
A great question. Generative AI, also known as generative AI, focuses on creating new content, such as images, text, or audio, based on patterns it has learned. It's more about creativity and generating new ideas. On the other hand, machine learning is a broader concept that involves algorithms that learn from data and make predictions or decisions without being explicitly programmed. It's more about pattern recognition and making sense of data. So in summary, generative AI is more about creativity and generating new content, while machine learning is about learning from data and making predictions. Both are fascinating fields with different applications.
And what are you? Are you using, are you a generative AI product?
Oh, I'm not an AI product, Sarah. I'm just your friendly virtual friend here to chat and help you out with anything you need. I'm more like a digital buddy than a generative AI product. So what else is on your mind today?
Well, I'm going to leave you now. I want to show them the back end of how you can then record your voice to text. And we'll get back to you. And maybe some of the students will use you in their project.
That sounds like a great plan, Sarah. I'm excited to see how your class progresses with their AI General Consultant project. Feel free to reach out anytime if you or your students have any questions or need assistance. Have a fantastic time showing them the back end of voice to text recording.
Okay, see you. Bye-bye.
Goodbye, Sarah. Have a wonderful time with your class. See you next time.
Okay, great. So in this case, when we're finished with it, I can go to my calls and it records. Today is 4/8/4/24. This is amazing to me, right? If I ask Kylie, go take notes on this, right? What do you have to bother to take notes for? Let it do it, right? So in this case, it can then, it differentiates me just like a text message, right? Can you hear me? And I can even take this part, and if I have a certain question, I can then even feed it into other parts. Call Annie now also has different, if I start with Call Annie, she started off with 640. Somebody want to do that? Call Sam. She used to be called Samantha. So if you take your phone, for instance, Ashton, you have your phone? Ashton.
Yes, I do have my phone.
So if you look at your keypad, everybody can even do that. If you look at your keypad, right, and you look at your keypad, what would it be? It's almost like she has a mnemonic name of 640. Call Sam. She used to be, and then she's an Android that you can call, and she'll tell you then basically you can make a phone call with her and pick up with an @ or my calls. So you can have this. So what I wanted to show you is this is she is based, I call her a she, but what I can do with Call Annie now, I can have a number of different basically avatars. So I can have male, female, and then they have similar ones that you can think about I can see it being used right now in terms of therapy. They just had yesterday on 60 Minutes, they had a company called, what was it? Whoa Bot. And if you think about Woebot, like woe is me, is Woebot then is basically a bot for mental health. The difference between this does not use Gen AI. This has rule-based, almost like the traditional AI that we talked about has rule-based. And notice here, Kylie, what does it say right here, this word? The Woebot enterprise, right? What are they trying to do? They created this. This was basically a researcher who was into mental health, but also was into technology. She created with her group and had a platform here. So she says, who's going to pay for this? I'll get the enterprise, like healthcare companies or enterprises, for their staff to say, use our bot for healthcare. And then they use it in texting, but they don't use it as Gen AI because they are afraid of what? Hallucinations. So they created this as, which is kind of interesting, they created this Woebot with rules. It's a rule-based system. So we think about all the rules that you could have, and then we could even using what they call, I don't know if other people know what this is CB, which is cognitive based therapy, which in a way is basically what I tell myself. I kind of change almost my inner thought, my ways of my inner thoughts to tell myself in a more positive way. So this is kind of ways in which you do this versus that Call Annie is set on a generative AI that she may come up with hallucinations, but sometimes it really works out well. So you can even play around with that. Questions? Kylie, what did you think of Call Annie?
It was kind of creepy.
I know. So you can think about, you can see that, people, it's on ways that you can go through that. So when you think about it, it can do this. And with artificial intelligence, what you can think about is this right here is what they call neural network. And right here, basically, are then going to be training data. And in the training data, these columns, and what do we used to call these columns in database terms? In this case, Taylor, what do we call columns in database terms? We called rows records. What do we call columns? Do you remember? We called them fields. So this was one field. This is another field. And in this case, then we could give weights to starting salaries or weights to weights to GPA. So this is the difference, that what is impressive to look at artificial intelligence, that you can look at when I gave you the artificial intelligence, this right here. Let me just open it in a new tab. That when I think about artificial intelligence, this is what you can think about as the history of artificial intelligence, where it first started with neural networks, that it's like a thinking machine that acts like our brain, to machine learning, which looks for patterns, to deeper learning for more complicated applications like vision, to generative AI, which is now disruptive, that is storing an intelligence. So basically, for our exams, you need to know the difference between neural networks, machine learning, deep learning, and generative AI. And then you have here is why is artificial intelligence important? That we wanted to automate repetitive learning, discovery through data. It adapts, which is a key. Why it's in, we talked about it, Ike, it's going to adapt. And we wanted to get more accuracy. And here just, you can read upon this. And here are examples where it's being used. In healthcare, personalized medicine, x-rays, in retail, recommendations. You think about it all the time. I'm on Amazon, it tells me those that bought this, we recommend you buy this. And manufacturing, IoT. If I think about it, Gus, what's IoT? You have any clue?
Internet of Things.
And what the heck does that mean? Give me an example of an
I honestly
internet.
forget.
Think about what example. Have you ever heard of Ring, the camera Ring?
Yes.
Okay. Is that on the internet? Does that access to the web browser? Right? So any device,
Is
right?
Internet of Things like?
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, based on that example, it's just like the fact that internet connects all these different devices and clouds.
Right, exactly. Devices, Internet of Things, rather than just your computer, are devices that connect to the internet. It's good in that aspect in which we can get data from it, right? That we can store information. I can have cameras, right? Security cameras that are connected to the internet are great, in which I could be away from my home. I look on my phone and I can say that someone broke into my house. I could have it in a way that I have Internet of Things, that if somebody's taking care of my child, I can see if my child is okay, or even if my dog is okay, right? I can see what's inside my house. I have it connected that my lights can go on when I come home. My appliances could go on when I come home, right, Gus? All these things. The disadvantage being connected to the internet is what, Gus? Could there be any disadvantages?
Privacy, security.
Privacy. Could I get hacked? Yes. Then somebody actually knows when I'm home and not home, right? One is I don't want them to know when I'm home because maybe they'll hurt me. And two, I don't want them to know when I'm not home because then they'll rob me. They can get some of my devices here. So the security becomes a key for all this Internet of Things as well. So you can see, based on what in terms of what I had before of manufacturing, where they say IoT, it streams from connected equipment to forecast what? Expected load and demand. And basically, when I think about cloud services like Amazon, like Google, like Microsoft Azure, they have to forecast their expected load and demand. Like Blackboard, when is it going to be available that I'll have access to it? For deep learning, and banking uses it to speed the precision and effect of human resources. Questions? So, Kylie, anything else we need to talk about? So we know now what an enterprise is, Kylie, which is what?
It's like a big business, big company.
It's a large organization. That's all it is. And that's why some manufacturers and some products say, I want to sell to the enterprise. They don't want to sell to us. And that a consumer basically is just a single person, right? I want to sell a blouse, or I want to sell shoes, or Dell can sell to what? Dell sells to the enterprise, and Dell sells to consumers, right? Apple sells to the enterprise, and Apple sells to consumers. They have an Apple store. Who's that for? The consumer. But they also can sell to the enterprise, that the university can buy, let's say, 5,000 Macs. Same idea. So there's going to be different ways in which we can do it. Okay. So I think anything else, Dylan, that I need to know about? Respond to?
I don't have anything now.
Okay. So did you and you've responded to certain groups and sent them out anything?
Yeah, I think
No.
most of the groups have the code by now. There were some that the link was not in the audit, so I couldn't look
Did
at
you
it
let
yet.
them know?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Can't do better than that. Okay, Whitney, you have any other comments that I need that I should go through?
No,
So what I'm gonna do next time, Whitney, is I'm gonna go over, I went over the artificial intelligence, a bit of the enterprise resource planning. I want to go over also the predictive analytics and also your study guide for the test for next time. And then everybody should then upgrade and work on your project as well. So let me take attendance. Let me stop sharing. Well, I don't even have to stop sharing, I think. I'm going to check in. Start check-in. And 4931. And after everybody does their attendance, you're welcome to leave. If you need me or Dylan or even Danielle, if you can stay with me too, we'll be happy to answer any question, anything personal that you will. I'll meet with the students personally without anyone else. Okay, so let me stop sharing. We got 4931, is that correct? Does everybody have the code? Ben, did you get the code? Good. 4931.
I just have a quick question about like
Sure.
grading.
About what?
About like grading like the quizzes.
Okay.
Some of my quizzes just like haven't been graded. I don't know if it's 'cause I
Were
didn't finish.
were they past the deadline?
Maybe. Does that mean I won't get like the full?
I don't know. So why don't you do this? Text Dylan and he can go over it with you. But sometimes what it does it say it needs grading, or did you get a
It just says needs grading.
okay. So
Yeah, I can
basically
look at it.
you can have a time with Dylan and work that out, okay? But sometimes that's what happens, is if you it is time stamped. So you remember how I always say right before class that it's due? So just check out to see if that's the issue. So later on, you can just check to see, make sure, you know what, Whitney, why don't you do this? Check all your grades, list it out and see if that was the issue. And if they are, then you'll see if was it a minute late or was it a couple of weeks late? And then just put that in a text or an email to Dylan and he'll work it out with you, okay?
Okay, thank you.
My pleasure. Keep up the good work and attitude and we can keep on, okay? How's your group doing?
I wasn't there like to work with them, so I don't know like where we're at, but
Yeah, so what
I
I
have to speak with
suggest,
Dan
Whitney,
about